Welcome to everyone that's joined us. Thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate you joining us as we're all going through this amazing and difficult time in the world right now. So we'll go ahead and get started discussing Windows Virtual Desktop. And thank you again. So let's go ahead and get started. Click next. So what is Windows Virtual Desktop? So it's a new name for remote desktop services. It's Microsoft's, I'll call it the modern implementation of Windows Remote Desktop Services, so RDS, as we all know and loved it in the past. So what is different about this implementation of RDS is that Microsoft manages the entire infrastructure for you. You do not need to worry about deploying the multiple hosts, the broker, the license server, the host pool, the session host servers. You only worry about deploying specifically the pool of servers you need for the users to access, the broker, and everything else that handles your RDS instance. That is handled for you by Microsoft. It's cloud native. You can access it from anywhere with all the security benefits from Azure AD on any device. If you're a BYOD company, this is a massive benefit for you because users don't have to be on a corporate device to take advantage of Windows Virtual Desktop, and you do not need to have a point-to-site VPN from those desktops or an always-on VPN from those desktops to be able to leverage the benefits of Windows Virtual Desktop. Let's go ahead and hop through. So what can it do for you? It's quick to deploy. That's the most important part, is that you can stand this up in just an hour or two of your day, and it grows and shrinks with your business. You're not looking at buying bundles of servers, network switches, routing, equipment, waiting for it to arrive, racking and stacking it, configuring it all up, and then you're finally ready to install the OS and then do the configuration. Here, you just worry about how many users have I got, what applications do I need to make available, and then go ahead and set up your host pool, and it will grow and shrink with your business. So it's got multiple methods of scaling that we'll discuss in a moment. So it removes the client access licensing headaches, especially with the Microsoft 365 license bundles that Microsoft has now built and renamed Office 365 to Microsoft 365 with Business Premium and above, or you can still use Office 365 packages, the traditional ones, and leverage this platform with Windows 10 Enterprise subscription-based licensing. It's all cloud-based licensing. It's a per-user cost, just as CALs were, but it no longer is a massive upfront capital. If you've got 50 users, it's not 50 times the capital cost of a CAL traditionally. It's just $18 a user will get you Microsoft 365, Office 365 desktop apps, Intune, Azure AD Premium, and so much more, and enable you to take advantage of Windows Virtual Desktop. So, and again, just to reiterate, it's accessible from anywhere and secureable with Azure AD conditional access. If you've got conditional access rules for multi-factor, that'll come into play. People will have to multi-factor before they can access their subscribed desktops or their subscribed remote apps. I mean, it's both a remote desktop and a remote application platform. And then they can access it on any device. If they've got an iPad, an iPhone, an Android phone, a MacBook Pro, Windows PC, anything, or if they're just accessing it from the web, there's a client for it on the web and on the desktops. So very important that it's flexible and it allows people to work how they want, when they want, and on what they want to work, which is a vital and key factor in the value of this platform, especially in our current global circumstances. So what are the benefits of running WVD? You might already have an RDS solution stood up. You might say, well, this sounds great, but I don't want to set up a brand new solution. You don't have to necessarily set up a brand new solution outside of what the infrastructure is itself. You can bring your own images. If you've already put the time investment into building and proving out your images and making sure that they're acceptable, they're tested, and they don't have an issue, there are multiple ways for you to provide your own images to Azure to build your host session pools out of. So you're not shoehorned into, okay, you got a blank Windows 10 canvas, now you've got to reset it all up and then deploy it to all the correct users. If you've got your images, you can set up multiple host pool sessions and bring your own images and apply them to those host pools at deployment. And we'll go through a technical demo of the point and clicks you need to take to deploy this solution so you can see where that comes into play. Native FS Logics. We're going to discuss FS Logics at a very high level today. If you've heard of it before, you know how exciting of a technology it is, but it is something that we could spend hours talking about if we really got into the meat and potatoes of it. So at a high level, we'll discuss it, and then look on our Cloud Mechanics YouTube channel. I'll be rolling out videos later this month on FS Logics and how to deploy it and how to configure it. So what it is at a high level, FS Logics allows you to decouple user profiles and applications from the OS layer. So traditionally, when we built an image as IT, we would have to build the image, we would install the applications, patch them up, install patches, and then test and verify that nothing's broken. And then when that image was deemed acceptable and usable, we would deploy it out. And then the next time application patches came out, or a new version of that application came out, we would have to rebuild the image, go through testing again, and prove it out, and then deploy it again across the entire infrastructure. What FS Logics allows you to do, and this is especially useful for profiles, is it containerizes the profile and saves it as a virtual hard drive on an SMB share, or on Azure Blob Storage, or AWS Blob Storage, any kind of blob storage, anywhere that's reachable over the internet or over your wide area network, your WAN. You can store your profiles there, and FS Logics will pull those profiles and attach them to VMs that users log into. So what this allows you to do is have a host pool of maybe 50 VMs that turn on and off throughout the day, and a user might log in and get 23 one day, and might get 42 another day. Their profiles on those machines, traditionally they'd make a new profile on each of those, and then they'd have a profile disparity between the two. So depending on which one they got, their user experience jarred. With FS Logics, that profile is attached at the time of sign-in. So regardless of which VM they're signed into, on that host pool, it'll attach their profile, that's a virtual hard disk, to the VM, and their profile, all of its contents, all the registry settings, all the application customizations, it all follows them around from VM to VM. And this is doable with Office 365 as well. So you can containerize Office 365 OneDrive shares. So this is instantaneous across the Azure backend, because you're running the VMs in Azure. MSIX applications. So MSIX is Microsoft's new format for application packaging. It is MSI with it's an extended version of the traditional Microsoft software installer, so MSI. What it allows you to do is it's a completely containerized platform for applications. Vendors who are deploying applications as MSIX, you can attach the application to the VM similarly to how I described profiles would get attached. The application lives in a container elsewhere, and then when a user logs into a VM and they're authorized to utilize that application, it is attached directly to their session and only their session. Another user on that same VM that is not authorized to utilize that application does not see, cannot find it installed. It's not hidden under program data. It literally does not look like it's installed at all. So it is a at runtime implementation for applications. So now we're looking at managing MSIX applications, not images. So your image updates, etc., those run in real time. You don't need to take the whole system down, rebuild the image, redeploy the host pool, reattach all the people's profiles. You manage just the MSIX application package, and Microsoft has very detailed documentation and tooling, and a tool to repackage legacy applications. If you've got MSIs and the vendors are out of business or aren't going to use MSIX, you can take their MSI or their EXE, wrap it inside of an MSIX application. This does take considerable amounts of time, but it allows you to containerize that application and attach it to individual user sessions instead of building a golden image. So very high level, FS Logics, that's the promise, that's the capability, and the sky's the limit with it. because you no longer have to manage multiple sessions, multiple host pools, multiple images. It's just one image and profiles and application pools that tell which user gets which application across the entire infrastructure. So, and then lastly, the third point, just to really drive it home and kill it with repetitiveness, is again multiple clients available on many devices. You can access this any way you want, anyhow you want, and users can do it from the comfort of their home, from the coffee shop, etc. So, and then real quick before we read through this slide and I talk about the requirements, I'm going to actually hop over and change to Microsoft's lovely user experience slide deck. So this is to show everyone what the experience will look like for a user that is on a BYOD device. So Windows Virtual Desktop, Microsoft slide itself. So Microsoft's experience is Windows 10 with Office 365, and it's Windows 10 multi-user experience. So you're not deploying a Windows server in the cloud and then attaching multiple people to it. It is real, proper Windows 10 with multiple users enabled. So traditionally on a desktop, you could not have multiple sessions running, multiple people logged in at the same time. Microsoft has unlocked that experience. Unfortunately, it's only available through Windows Virtual Desktop. So it is optimized for Office 365 Pro Plus. So there are images that are pre-built, pre-optimized, designed for WVD that allow Windows multi-user multi-user experience, and then come pre-packaged with Office 365 Pro Plus. So for those of you who are subscribed to Microsoft 365, you're ready to go and ready to hit the ground running if you don't have golden images already prepared. So again, deploy and scale in minutes. Microsoft's words, it does take a few more than a few minutes, but we'll go through that in a moment. So for the user, this user, you can see that she's on a workgroup computer. This is her personal desktop. It's actually an S mode computer, so she can't install EXEs and MSIs. This is an S mode computer. You can only install applications from the Microsoft Store. However, we will show that she still has the full capabilities of running applications like a normal Windows 10 computer, not in S mode. So BYOD, not corporate owned, it's in a work group. So we'll go ahead and go to her start menu. We'll scroll down, we'll see that there's Fabricam Cloud. So Fabricam is Microsoft's one of Microsoft's fictional companies. They have deployed Windows Virtual Desktop and made available to this user here the virtual apps and virtual desktop she's entitled to. So in this example specifically, we're looking at the desktop client and what it looks like. So the desktop client, once installed, you can see she's got Google Chrome, she's got all her Microsoft apps, she's got Visio, and etc. That doesn't typically run on S mode. So Power BI Desktop, that's not an S mode app. And Visio as well. So, but what we'll do is we'll click through her session desktop. So she connects, logs in, and it doesn't look too much different because it is, again, Windows 10. But now she is connected to Fabricam's Windows 10 desktop. So you can see on the bottom right corner, Windows 10 Enterprise for virtual desktops. And then we're going to go ahead and click on the taskbar, verify that yes, indeed, this is a multi-user session of Windows 10. Multiple people are logged in. Go ahead and close that. Open PowerPoint. Go ahead and go through some work, make some edits. So she logs off, and later in the day, she's at home. She's across the house from her laptop. She's got her iPad in her hand. She realizes she needs to change something on one of the slides. Well, with her iPad already in her hand, she opens Chrome and she's already logged into the web client for Windows Virtual Desktop. We can see here she's logged into rdweb.wvd.microsoft.com. Her name is Alice. And then she can go ahead and click on the session desktop on that screen. And then again, log in as her Fabricam Cloud. And it launches her session, and on her iPad, she's now logged in to her Windows session. So you can see that it fits the screen. It is, of course, an iPad screen, and you're running full Windows 10. So, but she can, through the comfort of her iPad, utilize PowerPoint desktop app to make the changes that she needs to make, and she's doing it from the comfort of her couch on her iPad. There are two methods for scaling WVD. There is a mode called breadth first. So I will type that out so it doesn't sound like I'm saying breast. So breadth first, what that allows you to do is you have all your VMs running at first, and people are load balanced across those VMs as they log in. So of course you incur more costs because you have more instances running at the same time. You also have what's called depth mode, D-E-P-T-H. Depth mode is you only have a single VM and people log into it until the point that WVD says, okay, the resource consumption on this VM is hitting that point where it's going to get a little bit stuffy if we put another person on there. So we'll turn on another VM exactly based off the same image you provided during deployment, and we'll start loading people onto there as well. So if you've got 150 users, you might be looking at running 4 VMs at peak load and load balancing them across those 4 VMs, 25, 30 users a VM about, or some more to get 150, but same concept applies. And then as people log off at the end of the day, you might have 1 or 2 night owls that work through the late hours. You'll, as those VMs drain, they are shut off, and then you're effectively left with 1 instance. So for cost conscientious companies and clients, the depth mode is probably going to be the most popular because you're only going to pay for what you're consuming. So of course, and you're paying for the consumed compute time. You're not paying for the user instances. So if you've got 50 users in a VM, you're going to pay for the cost of that VM's compute time. So you're not going to pay for 50 times that compute. So hopefully that makes sense. So that's the user experience. We'll go ahead and hop back to this slide here. So what are the requirements of running and deploying a Windows Virtual Desktop in Azure? You need an Azure Virtual Network that's connected to an Active Directory instance. You have the option of using an Azure AD connected Active Directory domain that's either native in the cloud, extended from your on-premise domain with a site-to-site VPN or express route, or you can utilize your Azure AD domain services if you're a cloud-born company or you don't want to extend your infrastructure into the cloud right now. And some PowerShell experience so that we can walk through the process of creating a Windows Virtual Desktop tenant right now. It is a PowerShell process, so you'll want some experience at least. So what is coming to Windows Virtual Desktop? So first and foremost, an improved admin experience in the Azure portal. It's no longer an ephemeral Windows Virtual Desktop tenant that you're not really sure what does that mean, what does that look like. It will be built into Azure's resource manager model. So you can deploy your session hosts, you can manage your application groups, you can manage your tenant from there. It's all coming later this quarter, 2020. So Windows Virtual Desktop PowerShell commandlets, it is a separate module right now, and I'll show you the documents. We'll be walking through the documents somewhat. So it's not like there's any secret sauce that I'm hiding here. It's Microsoft's current documentation. However, there are a few caveats that it helps to have someone who's done it before. So I'm happy to show you guys that. But the WVD PowerShell commandlets right now that Microsoft has, it is integrated into the AZ module, so the Azure module. If you've worked with Azure before, if you're familiar and enjoy PowerShell and have worked with the Azure module, the Windows Virtual Desktop commandlets will be rolled into and renamed with the AZ prefix and verbs and nouns for PowerShell. So, and then of course all of that is to say that your deployment experience. Today I will show you the point and click so that you can get it up and running. But the deployment experience for you going forward, hopefully later this quarter, will be dramatically improved as the object model is implemented into general availability in Azure. So how can we help? So Software Media and Total Cloud IT, the sister companies, this is how we can help you with Windows Virtual Desktop. We can help you navigate the licenses that you require. So depending on what you've got right now, what you've got the budget for going forward, we can help you understand which license packages make the most sense for you to leverage Windows Virtual Desktop, so that you're not spending where you don't need to, or you don't accidentally purchase something that actually isn't quite exactly what you need. We will also provide a service where we white glove the deployment and configuration of your Windows Virtual Desktop environments. So if you want it up and running, you've got your requirements set, and you're ready to discuss it with us, you can tell us, hey, I want this running, but I don't have the time capacity right now for it. Could you help me out? And we'll be happy to white glove the deployment and configuration and hand it over to you for management and ongoing management. Or lastly, we can do the full managed platform. Let's just say you want to keep your hands out of this cloud stuff for now, but you want to take advantage of it. We totally and completely understand that. We're more than ready and poised to go ahead and deploy it for you, keep it up to date, and make sure that we're meeting your business's needs in this trying time.